massive nationwide cell phone outage.
It disrupted cell service for millions of customers.
Outages across the country.
People noticed their phones weren't sending or receiving messages.
I'm lost and my phone's not working.
The screens read SOS.
It's possibility of a cyber attack.
These cyber attacks.
By a cyber attack.
Federal government is now getting involved. FBI and Homeland Security.
So what the do you want me to do though?
I got someone come to my house.
Attacks on all kinds of infrastructure.
We are seeing ongoing cyber attacks.
This is very scary.
What would you do if you woke up tomorrow and had no cell phone signal, no internet? A lot of us, including myself, depend on the internet for work, school.
I can't work technically without my phone, so.
If something bad happens, we have to be able to connect with our loved ones, and not only that, but connect with first responders in the case of an emergency. None of us use paper maps anymore because it's so easy to whip out our phones and use GPS. As petty as this may sound, we are very much dependent on our cell phones and the internet.
All day today, many AT&T users felt a bit debilitated.
You expect it to just be there and it's not.
It's drop calls almost every call that I've been on.
Nothing worked. Not calls or texts or emails or apps or boarding passes.
I was trying to download Uber or Lyft or any kind of app where I could call a ride to the airport, make it back home, and almost missed our flight.
This happened yesterday to many Americans, and a lot of us still don't know why. Yes, there's a few possible reasons, and we're going to get into those in just a second, but what was it? Was it a cyber attack from Russia, from China? Was it a software glitch? Let's start with the cold hard facts and what people are saying online. On February 22nd, 2024, many people woke up to their cell phones not working whatsoever. Now, what would you do? You have AT&T and your phone is not working. Are you gonna go up to AT&T and see what's going on? Because yeah, you can't really call them. I probably would, but I would not act like this.
Oh, here we go. Come on, get the door open. Good morning.
So we're aware that your services are down. We don't have an ETA on like the fix to it.
What is AT&T gonna do for us? Because we've been out here for an hour waiting. Yeah. 10 o'clock.
Yeah, we're not sure yet, but it's multiple carriers, not just AT&T.
I don't care if it's multiple carriers. They get paid to get their service.
Right.
We've already paid them for the money.
Yeah.
I can't even get a text message or a phone call out.
But sir, what do you want me to do? Like, what the hell, man?
Hey, I know it's not your fault, but the problem matter is...
No, it is his fault.
How's it my fault?
He needs to fix it.
We've got an issue here with AT&T. I can't get a phone call or a text out. I'm here in Maitland, Florida.
Sir, we're having an outage. You know what an outage means?
I can understand what an outage is.
So what the do you want me to do though? What do you want me to do?
You're not cricket, you're crooked. Dice que no puede hacer nada que hasta todos tengan el teléfono de frente.
I had a job interview this morning at 9. Is it gonna fix that problem for me?
AT&T.
Well, it's a nationwide thing. It's not just.
I don't care. It's a nationwide store. AT&T.
Please be open. Hello? Excuse me? I don't want to order anything. I just need help. I'm lost and my phone's not working. And do you guys have a phone?
Is your phone on SOS mode?
Yeah.
Mine too.
Oh, does the whole line's out?
I think AT&T's out right now.
Oh, are you AT&T? Yeah. Do you guys have a phone inside by chance? This is by far the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to me. Begging at the Jack in the Box drive-thru for help. Turns out, it's not my fault. AT&T is entirely down. Luckily, I have gas. I just ran a red light fully. He literally said he heard me crying through the drive-thru because they're closed, but he heard me screaming, crying for help.
There was a lot of videos posted to TikTok and Instagram and YouTube of people showing up to AT&T, and I kind of feel bad and sympathize for the AT&T workers because they were left in the dark. They had no idea what was going on, why these outages were happening. And according to some, the outages weren't just AT&T. There were also some reports of Verizon and T-Mobile customers getting hit too. I don't know the extent, but it seems like AT&T got hit the hardest. After watching some of this footage, I can't help but realize how dependent we are on our phones. I mean, we use our phones for everything. When I say everything, I mean, when I first started driving, I would just get lost. I wasn't really keen on using paper maps. I mean, maybe we used MapQuest. We'd go on the internet and you kind of type in directions and you have like a paper GPS, if you will. A lot of us don't have landlines anymore because, me personally, I kind of look at it as a waste of money. If I have a phone already, why do I need a landline? After something like this happening, it's probably not a bad idea to get a landline.
Invest in a landline.
There's just too many things pointing in the direction of a cyber attack.
What does all this mean?
They're getting ready to use force. They have placed Trojan horses in our power grid, in our water system.
Trojan horses, that's basically viruses, if I'm understanding that correctly. The cell phone outage that happened yesterday, Trojan horse. It was a software glitch. I'll explain that here in a little bit. A lot of people are saying that it was solar flares. And interestingly enough, there was solar flares that happened yesterday. But I'll get back to that in a second. There was a movie that was trending #1 on Netflix maybe about a month ago, and I happened to watch it. And when I was watching the credits, I was kind of shocked to see that the Obamas helped produce this movie. Actually, they didn't just help produce it, they were the executive producers. And I got to thinking, is our government trying to send a message to us? A message to prepare? I think so. If you watch that movie, it's very similar to what's happening right now. The warnings are there. Whoever attacks us, whether it's China, Russia, or could be some aliens too, they're not going to do it with nuclear war. I mean, you know, maybe in the future, but nah. They're going to make us suffer. They're going to hack our cell phones, create outages, turn off our internet, our electricity, our water. We lost cell phone signal for about 12 hours yesterday, and it created total chaos.
AT&T cell phone customers had their connected world stopped.
12 hours after a widespread outage.
My suspicion is we need to be prepared.
Food delivery is gone. Water doesn't work. Your telephones don't work. The world goes back to 1859 and we're all in the dark and the lights are out.
The first thing on everyone's mind was someone hacked us. And I'm not gonna lie, the FBI just happened to explain this a couple of weeks ago.
PRC hackers are targeting our critical infrastructure. Our water treatment plants, our electrical grid, our oil and natural gas pipelines, our transportation systems, and the risk that poses to every American requires our attention now.
Okay, I do want to add that I am not into politics, including controversy. I feel like the warnings are there, but a lot of people are missing out. And I don't want to see a lot of you get left behind. And when I say left behind, I mean being unprepared. Now, if this was China or Russia or another country, I do have to add that I have nothing against Chinese people, Russian people, or anybody like that. I'm a minority myself. We're talking about superpowers, governments fighting against other governments. We're kind of caught in the middle. Christopher Wray, the FBI director, couldn't have said it any better.
I do want to make very clear that my comments today are not about the Chinese people, and certainly not about Chinese Americans who contribute much to our country and are frankly often the victims of Chinese Communist Party aggression themselves. Rather, when I talk about the threat posed by China, I mean the government of China.
Remember a while back when there was some spy balloons, aka UFOs, that they had to shoot down?
Notice out of the corner of my eye a white spot in the sky. I, of course, landed on the most logical explanation that it was an extraterrestrial craft.
You were ordered to engage?
But it only took a single missile which homed in on the heat of the sun reflected off the balloon.
Franklin.
That was kind of a warning too that a lot of us missed out on.
Houston, Los Angeles, Chicago, Atlanta reporting the most service interruptions.
A lot of these cell phone outages happened in major cities. And what a lot of people aren't talking about is that this happened in the United States. Didn't happen anywhere else. I could be wrong, but I didn't hear about anybody losing cell phone reception in any other country but the United States. Many people were upset that AT&T didn't really offer much of an answer as to why their towers were down. Was it because they themselves didn't know for sure, or was someone telling them to?
All right, so that question remains tonight. Who and what was responsible for this outage?
I don't know, but I do find it weird that they didn't respond for a really long time. Actually, I think they just responded this morning as to what caused this outage, and many people aren't buying it.
Sources just told ABC News it was caused by a software upgrade gone wrong.
But before AT&T even responded, This professor from the University of Texas at Dallas had this to say.
Usually it is some kind of a software bug that goes undetected, and if you haven't properly tested before release, it can have certain unforeseen outcomes.
Prakash lost phone service too. It is only his theory, but he feels the outage could have been sparked by a network software patch.
Typically, you would push these kinds of patches late at night when there are very few customers online to provide minimum disruption.
So this is something that we know for sure. I mean, the professor just mentioned this. How do cyber attacks happen? It happens through software, happens electronically. So we cannot rule that out entirely. Now, many people were also attributing solar flares to this outage as well. Think of solar flares as being kind of like storms that happen on the sun, and it can kind of create little problems here on Earth. But there's a couple of reasons why it's definitely not the solar flares that happen. Well, for one, the solar flares happened a few hours prior to the cell phone outages. And yes, they did mess with radio signals, which are HF signals. The reason why this can't be connected to cell phone outages, though, is because they use a completely different signal known as UHF, ultra high frequency. And supposedly these solar flares did not affect those whatsoever. In fact, I even have a meteorologist here that's gonna break it down for you.
There were solar flares. 3 of them occurred overnight. The latest one being right in the middle of the spectrum for R1 to R5. These were radio interferences. Biggest one was an R3. So it was not the biggest, but kind of in the middle of the pack here. And these solar flares are an eruption of the sun's energy. We've seen these before, and we're gonna see more of them in the years ahead here because we're near a solar maximum with what we're calling it here. And I first want to talk about this. This occurred 3 hours before the first outage reports came in here. It recorded the flare at 1:30 this morning, I should say, and it hit the radio frequencies, the HF frequencies, not the UHF, the ultra high frequencies where cell phones are on. So that's why these flares couldn't have been accounted for when it comes to the outage today. Not to mention it was nighttime here, and these types of flares occurred in the daytime on the other side of the world. That's where it was felt, because these were radio interference coming from the solar flare. That's why we didn't get anything directly from the solar flare.
Most definitely was not created by solar flares. There's some freaky stuff happening with our sun right now. I don't know if you knew this, but the sun has a north pole and a south pole, very similar to our magnetic poles here on Earth. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail on this, but they're supposed to be moving pretty soon. Yeah, completely doing one of these. I watched a whole video on it. Pretty scary stuff. If you want me to make a video on that in the future, I'm game. Just let me know here in the comments. But it was not a solar flare that created these cell phone outages. So what are people online saying after they watch some of these videos? I'm sure a lot of you have been in the comment section to some of these videos and maybe some of the news. Look at some of these here. AT&T absolutely knows what caused the outage. Now, this is last night when they weren't really responding much as to what caused the outage. And we'll get into a little bit of what they say caused the outage. The crazy thing is the main cities affected by the cell phone outage are the same cities that could be affected by, I'm not going to even say that word. They'll never admit the cause. I'll check this comment out. The FBI just warned us about cyber attacks that hit our infrastructure, and they are exactly right. They were warning us just a couple of weeks prior. Saying it was probably a software bug is not a technical analysis. The two theories I've heard are either their SIM database crashed or a failed DNS update without proper backup or rollback procedures. This was just a couple hours ago. No PR release from AT&T for hours. This is gonna hurt their business. And you know what? I happened to check their stock this morning, and it didn't really hurt them at all. I mean, they had like a slight dip and it went right back up, so didn't really hurt their business. And then there's this comment. Stock up on canned foods, rice, and beans. It was not a cyber attack. Rest of the world. definitely a cyber attack. It did take AT&T probably like an entire day to respond to this madness. I mean, we don't know what they were going through. I seen a lot of workers really stressed out, left in the dark. They didn't know what was going on. If it was a software thing, like a software patch, like the professor said, maybe someone kind of messed up. And if that's true, how come AT&T isn't offering some incentives? Maybe pay some of these people's cell phone bill, give them a credit for a month. I mean, there was people's livelihoods that got put on the back burner. There's a lot of people that depend on this cell phone service for work.
Oh, I couldn't work at all. There was no service. I had a bill hit this morning out of my checking account, and I don't have much, and I've got more bills to pay.
There's this woman right here saying that she had bills coming out that very same day, and she was looking forward to making some money on Uber, and she couldn't make any money, and she's upside down now because of it. Are you going to offer these people some incentives? Maybe give them some money, a kickback? I don't see a problem with maybe giving them a discount on their next month of service. But this is AT&T's response today at 7 o'clock in the morning. AT&T said that the hour-long outage to its U.S. cell phone network Thursday appeared to be the result of a technical error, not a malicious attack. They bring up malicious attack because that was on everyone's mind, and almost feel like they shouldn't have said that because that just raises eyebrows even more. Why not just come out and say, hey, my bad, we had a little bit of issue? Like, don't even put that in the same sentence. The outage knocked out cell phone service for thousands of its users across the US starting early Thursday before it was restored. AT&T blamed the incident on an error in coding without elaborating, and quote, based on our initial review, we believe that today's outage was caused by the application and execution of an incorrect process used as we were expanding our network, not a cyber attack. Here we go again, putting it in your mind that it was not a cyber attack. It's not a cyber attack. Like, why even mention that in the first place? Just come out and say what the problem was, end of story. Why even mention in the same paragraph multiple times that it was not a cyber attack? This is scary. I feel even more like it was a cyber attack. This was an intentional attack on our infrastructure. Maybe it was a warning. If you want to read this article, it's on apnews.com. I'm not going to read the entire thing. It does say that there were reports, and here we go, Verizon and T-Mobile. Now, what I'm about to say right now is purely my opinion and just kind of speculation based off of what I've been reading and the facts kind of thrown at me. Now, we know that T-Mobile and Verizon and AT&T, and of course, like secondary carriers, you know, Simple Mobile, people that are kind of under the umbrella of those big companies, a lot of them were affected. AT&T got hit the hardest, and I personally have T-Mobile. I wasn't affected whatsoever, but I know that there was some people that had T-Mobile. This is what I think. I think this attack happened on every cell phone platform, but T-Mobile and Verizon were a little bit more prepared. Maybe their software was a little bit better to handle this cyber attack, and that's why it didn't happen as bad as it happened to AT&T customers. Like I said, this is purely speculation on my part. I'm just kind of thinking out loud and sharing that with you. But it is interesting. Was it really a software patch? I mean, me being a gamer my whole life, I know that there's issues when it comes to patches and software updates, but think about how long we have owned cell phones for. Have you ever experienced anything like this? No. A lot of people, including myself, are not convinced that this was just a glitch. They're thinking it was intentional. Whether or not you believe that something bad is going to happen in the near future, there is nothing wrong with being prepared. They used to have this show back in the day called Doomsday Preppers. It's probably still going on, but haven't watched it in a really long time. When I would watch this show, I would learn a lot, of course. Sometimes I couldn't help but laugh at some of the reasons why these people were doomsday prepping. Now, seeing all of this happening right in front of us, I can't help but admire these people even more for showing us how they prepared for the absolute worst. And I think we could kind of start taking notes from some of these people that we thought were crazy in our eyes and learn to prepare to survive, because it may come down to that. And if something goes down like this, it's survival of the fittest. I'm sorry to say, those are going to be the ones that survive the end of the world, those who prepared themselves for it. So what can we do to prepare? For many of us, preparing can mean many different things. For me, it's maybe praying more, get a little bit closer to God, being prepared for the absolute worst. For starters, we can get a landline in case our cell phones were to lose service. Me, myself, I am gonna start preparing, and I am gonna document it on my vlog channel if you're interested in watching some of those videos. Even if something never happens, there is nothing wrong with being prepared, and I think you should definitely start. The possibilities of what's happening and the warning signs that we've been given already are terrifying. Whether or not you're preparing for the absolute worst, I want to know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you want to see more videos like this, let me know here in the comments, and don't forget to smash that like button. Gotta go for now. Before you leave, give me a kiss.